Good.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. The next Wasteless World Talks are here, and today with Kevin McKenzie. We will not have Bill here today, so we will act like animals. Why? Because generally today's topic is, once again, quite special, being animal alike. And before asking Kevin the first question, I will explain why I came or how I came to this topic. I have a discussion with one general manager, and we discuss up to the level of politics, and then we came to the conclusion that humans, are not so good to make the politics, so maybe AI should do it. And he said, humans are animals. And he pointed out in let's say in this negative in the negative view that we in Czech we say if we say you behave like an animal, it's something negative. And at this moment in my head resonates the question, why is this negative? What is negative about animal life, animal behavior comparing to human? And we have a very interesting discussion which grow up to the really very interesting discussions. And I would like to have the same discussion with you because, in Czech, for example, we say that if there is somebody in a very high position, we say it's an animal. I don't know why it's said, but it's an animal. It's like it's a big animal. So this is what we say. He is a big boss. How do you see animals and the human extraordinary position on the top of some whatever we call a pyramid of evolution?
I think from the starting point of comparing politicians to animals, that's really a mistake because not so many animals lie, cheat, backbite, break their promises, steal. It's being a politician is it's a low form of human behavior. It has nothing to do with the animal kingdom at all. I think that every animal would be appalled to be compared to us. I think that we display human characteristics can be both extremely positive and extremely negative. And the negative ones are not displayed or on display or taken part in by animals. It's us. We are just quite often a base species. And so what we're actually doing is debasing animals by comparing our bad behavior to animals when it is the other way around.
So if we say that if humans will be more like animals, it will turn into good generally, because, I was trying to analyze when we start to speak about being animal as something wrong. In Czech, we say, for example, you are dirty as a pig, or you are sweating like a horse, and similar. Of course, we have a good ones like you are friendly like a dog, or you are clever like an owl. But it seems like that we transferred our negatives into the animals, so dirty like a pig, and we take the good ones from the animals, so clever like an owl. And what you said generally, it's confirming, but my question is going deep in a history, when we start to talk about animals in this negative way, when speaking about human behavior?
I think I don't know, but I imagine we've always done it. It's we're a tribal species, so we look down upon other tribes, but then we also look down upon all other species. We've set ourselves up in the animal kingdom as being above the rest of the animal kingdom. We're not a part of it, we're above it. And so I think whenever we decided that we weren't part of the animal kingdom, but we were better, was when we must have started comparing our bad behavior to animal behavior. It's a way of denigrating those we're insulting. So we're not insulting, or we don't think we're insulting a pig. If we compare a human to a pig and say you're as dirty as a pig, the insult is human to human rather than intentionally on the pig. But it's a mistaken insult. It's a stupid insult to use.
I had in the noon discussion, I had people from India, Australia, and Nepal to discuss with me. And it was very interesting to see that in India and Nepal, still the animals are not gods, but they are valued, not just for food or just for the results, but they are really valued. And in their, not churches, but in their big buildings and so on, still they are thousands of years old, and they are at the beginning, there's all the time an animal who is in some way inviting you to the god, or I don't know how to say it. And it was a very big difference to us, to the European and Australian approach.
I think so too. I think it's interesting because then looking at insults in general, then some cultures, I know the United Kingdom, for example, uses body parts as insults rather than comparing fellow humans to different kinds of animals. They do both, but one is more prevalent than the other. And I think in some cultures, you know, they would be appalled if we were comparing each other to animals, because their culture is completely different.
You know, I try, because you know me, I try when I get this thought, so I write about it, I wrote an article and so on, and I was thinking how we become the top of the ladder of evolution. And I said to me, okay, so we have to change our clothes every time when there is a different weather. Does it make us better than the animals who live with one coat all their life? And I have a list of similar, and you know, I did not find a single one why we should be at the top.
Though I think certainly in Christian, the Christian religion is because we're created in God's image. So we're more godlike than animal-like, even though I think biology would care to differ. Certainly, if you look at the differences in DNA from most species, the differences are remarkably small. And we certainly come from that same stock of DNA rather than being gods. So we are absolutely animals. And we just consider ourselves more like God.
You know, you probably listened to my last discussion with Bill, and generally we touch a lot of topics. And one of the topics which we touch all three together is all the time how to not only wake up the people, how to really make the image understandable. Wasteless world is one part. But what about to turn these negative aspects of relation, of describing the animals, into human become the animal again? So wake up the animal from inside out. Because I think it will have the same impact, you know, everybody knows what is an animal. Everybody knows there can be dangerous animals and there can be friendly animals, but frequently the danger, or let's say a politeness, I don't know other word, of an animal is frequently bind to how we act with the animal, whether we are threat or whether we are friendly. So, of course, if animal is hungry, it would like to eat. It's ready to kill, but never kill millions because it would like to eat one. So they never do a war.
There was a absolutely fantastic book published in the 50s by, I think the writer's name was Desmond Morris, and he was a zoologist. And he wrote a zoological study of an ape. And that ape he called the naked ape, which was us. We're the only ape that doesn't have hair. And it's absolutely brilliant because he just looks at us as another animal species. what is our behavior? What are our tendencies? What do we, how do we survive? Where do we survive? And it is just a genius piece of work and well worth reading, because it is an absolute reminder that we are a species, and we are a species with a certain set of habits. And not all of them are particularly good, certainly not for the planet.
If you will be able to find the title or the book, please send it to me. I will put it in a description of this conversation. Just to hit another topic, I have to inform you that since today, our videos are available as podcasts.
Oh, super.
All of them. I have found a tool, so all of them are already, I will send you the link. So they are available as podcasts. So I am really happy that you say that, because, I think that the wasteless world image is the image of a world. But if we image ourselves inside the world as the animal, as one of the part, I have to explain that generally I'm not speaking only about the animals. I speak about all living, everything what is here generally. So I use the term animal because they are more closest to us. So they have hands, something like hands, legs, head, and so on. So we are, in some way, we are similar. It's better than imagine us as a tree, for example. But I think it is very important to find a connection point, which in some nations still is there. In industrial nation is not there. We are, instead of a nature, it become a robot. The next one.
Could you explain further?
We discussed it once. There is an image of, I don't have it here. I have it here. Just a moment. Generally, this book, for example.
Oh, yes, that's right. Yeah.
And so we are, I just saw very interesting application of this robotic dog developed by someone, I don't remember, but there is, right, I think it's called Spot, the origin. Then right now there are many copies. And last time I mentioned that there is somebody used it as a dog for the blind people, so the guide dog. Great application. He has cameras, it can be GPS there, he can communicate as well. So great application. And yesterday I saw a small girl riding on that dog. Just sitting and she rides. Why not? If it will be slightly bigger and you have something instead of a wheelchair, you will have something like a dog which can climb the stairs and so on. It will make the life much more easier of many. But at the same time, a few months ago, I saw that somebody assembled on this dog a flamethrower or a machine gun, Yeah. And that was first before I saw the blind dog or anything else.
But I think that image you showed is quite interesting, because the original image is God and man. And in this one, and clearly, we are now the gods, and we are giving life to the robots.
I would be happy if it will be this way, but I fear, and I see it from so many fakes and so on, distributed with connection with Industry 5.0, that the robot is the god still. So that this is the issue. If a human will be the god, let's say the god can influence what will happen, but we are reaching the stage in which we cannot. Already now, we do not know what is happening generally. We are just surprised, oh, that happened.
Yeah. And there's two things to take out from that. The first is that robotics and AI are two different things. I think robotics is, like you say, can be extremely helpful. AI is, at the moment, it's an elaborate copy-paste machine. And God knows where that could lead to. And most people seem to realize that it could lead somewhere extremely unpleasant. But I think that robotics itself is fantastic. That if you can give someone a new arm, it's absolutely amazing. But the last thing you want is a new arm that thinks for itself. It's we have to be in charge of our thinking.
Yeah.
It's also ridiculous. Why we've got such a wonderful brain, each and every one of us. Why do we need a machine to think for us? It doesn't make any sense at all.
And you have read probably just recently there was new news about the implants in the brain, so the brain implants, which in connection with disabled people are somehow not fully workable people with not fully workable bodies. And they implant it, and this man can walk. That was such an unbelievable thing. But when there is a bigger discussion, it's a discussion about everybody having a chip. And that's exactly the big risk. You know, today I found out China introduced in 2018 so-called Made in China 2025 program. It was in 2018, so before COVID generally. And it was a 9-page document, which I can share. And they very strongly relate or refer to Industry 4.0 and Germany. 1 month ago, they changed it, and they relate to Industry 5.0. I learned it not from Chinese, I learned it from Thailand, where a professor analyzed this change, and generally he write an article, and I came along this article, and so on and so on. But it is so interesting development. Still, it's not aligned properly, but it's coming closer to the original, you know. It's not just the robotics, but the environmental aspects, let's call it, and the social aspects seems to resonate strongly. Whether they are or not, it's hard for me to judge generally, but it's quite interesting. And I do fully agree with you. The robots can help us a lot of course, we get older and we lose our strength. It's a standard thing. So why not to have a helper? I cannot walk so fast, so I take my unicycle. It's the helper. It's a small robot with a wheel. Why not? So just there is this limit, which is especially with ChatGPT and similar, these aspects of the laziness. Someone will do it for me because I will do something different. But the issue is that we already almost lost the ability to specify this different part.
Yeah, I think it's quite interesting. I was talking to a friend of mine. He's a farmer, and he's like the rest of us, getting older. And he says that farming is one of those jobs which destroys the body. It is extremely tough physical work. He's a dairy farmer. And so I don't know how it is in the rest of Europe, let alone the world, but in Denmark, if you have a hard physical job, and then there is a possibility to go on a state pension earlier, because if you're a shipbuilder, your body is going to be worn out much quicker than an office worker. But imagine if robots could take over this extremely hard physical work in places like farms, which absolutely, you know, we can't do without farms. We can't do without farmers. We must have them. But to give them robotic help would be quite fantastic. I mean, that is much more worthwhile than these guys trying to imitate the human mind for no other reason than the fact that they think they can do it. You know, what are the benefits, everyday benefits of their research? Like you say, it's just making people lazy. It will stop them thinking. They can cheat, they can do this, they can do that. We can all impersonate a great artist. But it is a waste of time. It's a huge distraction.
So if we come back to animals, animals are here, they develop according to the needs, to their needs, of course, to the development of nature. And I'm sure with the increasing temperatures, they will lose fur, or they will create fur which will be reflecting the solar light or whatever, I don't know. But I'm sure it will have faster than us, which is obvious. So what do you think about the approach of trying to, through this image of animals, human be like animal, or animal like human, I don't know, animal like humanity, maybe something like that. Do you think it will reach the audience?
I think it should. There's two really interesting things about this. The first is that if you look at the state of the planet, for example, animals can't be blamed for anything. That it is absolutely nothing to do with anybody but us. And as temperatures rise, as seawater rises, the things which will thrive are unpleasant things. There'll be far more diseases. There'll be far more things in the sea which sting and which bite, because they can cope much better with the changes to the environment. So you want to go into the sea, which is full of Portuguese men of war, then we're doing the right thing. So in a way, we're changing. If we're like animals, we're the animals that are going to benefit. We're like the animals which are going to benefit. So we are like virulent diseases. We are like the Portuguese man of war. We are the unpleasant end of nature. We're not the good end of nature. We're not the caring, the cozy, the beautiful, the amazing end of nature. We are the horrible, destructive, pointless end of nature if we're not careful.
How to avoid this negative connection between the word animal and human?
I think that it's we need to understand our role in nature much better to be able to stop doing that. You know, every animal has a place in nature, so you can't denigrate it for what it's doing, because that's its job. So the Egyptians worshipped beetles, for example, and the rest of us wouldn't give a moment's thought to a beetle. So we need to look again at what happens in nature, because we're so removed from nature. We'd rather create our own human beings than save the nature we've got. We'd rather create, impressions of ourselves than to embrace the nature around us.
On the other hand, a lot of human things which human developed are inspired by nature. Tokyo Underground, it was generally a slime or something like that, which was used to make it right. The hooks in a railway wagons which connect the wagons, this is again some animal whatever. And there is a lot of, we imitate for a long time, we imitate animals. So it looks like that we learn a lot from animals and say, it's not animals, it's us. And only if you go deep, then you will realize it was not so. But do you think that the animals take something from humans?
Yes, I think so. I don't know, it's, I think that animals, they don't have the same intelligence as us, but they have intelligence, and it's a mistake not to, or it's a mistake to underestimate the intelligence they have. And I think that you see instances of animals asking humans for help. And I think that is wonderful, because then there is the possibility to establish relationship and trust between species, so that we are closer to the other species on our planet than we are to any robot or artificial intelligence we want to give a human name and a human face to.
So we can speak that humanity is not about human. It's about creature, about everybody who is living here can behave human in a way of humanity. Because, and frequently the animals have more humanity than the human themselves.
Yeah, it's we have mistaken our place in the planet. We're not above the planet. We're not above the other animals on the planet. We are a part of the planet. And the sooner, or the, we must engage and integrate with the other creatures on this planet, not try and dominate them, not try to consider that this is our planet and we'll do what we want with it, because that's not the way it works. It is a shared planet.
So, and why don't we do that?
I think because we're busy chasing money, we're busy building society. Most of the things we're doing are against nature. It separates us from nature. We want to build cities, we want to drive in cars, we want to do all the things which we think are advanced. Have you heard of this? I can't remember what it's called. It's called black soil or something like that. They've been doing ground penetrating radar scans of the Amazon basin. And they found huge areas that were populated by humans. And these populations are too big to be sustained by the Amazon jungle soil. And what they found is that they used a thing, I think it's called black soil or dark soil, which is like a soil, but it's far more full of nutrients than normal soil. And so they developed this thing to be able to feed their large populations. We don't know how to make it. We've lost that skill. And they didn't use computers to make that soil. They had copied nature. They had found something in nature to enable them to be able to feed themselves. And I think that's we're going so far the wrong way. We're going so far away from nature, thinking we're so clever, that we're missing an awful lot of what nature could give us, especially during these times of huge populations and rising temperatures.
I think that maybe biochar is close to this rich activated biochar. So because it's generally going back, and it brings a lot of what is interesting. I have heard a very interesting, it should be a historical rite. So it was in old Rome or Greece, I'm not sure, somewhere there. And they said that if the citizens has not been satisfied with the government of the city, they leave the city, all of them, and they leave just the politicians there. That's such a great idea, you know. I love it. I have to find it. It was somewhere in the Greece, and it has some name. I just in my brain did not put it, but I will find it.
I think there would be whole countries which became empty.
You know, just now we discussed it a few times already that Africa is so big, is gaining on a really on the power because they have all this oil and resources and so on. And I just saw some conference today in the morning where everybody in a uniform, so army uniform, and everyone speaks about the need of unity. But even two countries in Africa are not willing to break the borders. You know, so on one side they say yes, united Africa, it will be unbelievable power, but at the same time they generally reject to unite.
And you can be pretty sure that there's dark forces behind the scenes making sure that they stay disunited.
I think Bill mentioned it several times as this guy standing, tell the guy with the fork that the guy with the flame is the enemy. Yeah? So
it's strange that I like to think that human beings, we're a collective species. We do things together for the common good. But when it comes to a national level, or maybe it's even a tribal level, we're capable of cooperating and being collective as a tribal animal, but not towards other tribes, not towards other countries. It's quite strange how we still have this. We are a tribal animal, and tribes tend to fight.
And isn't it because generally the fight is attracting more than the peace? I think that generally, if the people are living in a peace and and all the work will be done by robots and, so the meaningfulness of life is generally missing. And when somebody came and say, okay, let's fight for whatever, they find the meaning in destruction generally.
Yeah, and we're so good at making or inventing enemies. So if it's not the next door neighbor with his bloody hedge, it's the Chinese, or it's the whoever or whoever or whoever. And again, that goes back to being a tribal species. That's we're ourselves, and there's everybody else, and everybody else is a threat to us.
So if we unite in a way of we are animals, there are no tribes. We are animals. We can have a different color of our fur. We can have a whatever. We can have a less hair or more hair, or it doesn't matter. But we are one. I think with this, it can work.
I think so too. And I think that we're going to have to be one, because we're going to face a crisis which we've never faced as a species before. And the only way we can solve that crisis is as one. It's, the solutions to the environment overheating isn't an American solution. It's not a European solution. It's not a Chinese solution. It's going to have to be a human solution.
Have you heard about the underground cities in different countries?
No.
Generally, they are, from the historical, they are 500,000 years old. And under the buildings, they are built generally caves. And there are entire cities in Greece, in other destinations as well, discovered by coincidence generally. But they said it's unbelievable. They really dig inside a complete cities, including churches, including hospitals. Everything was there. And I think that, and I wrote a few years ago generally, that we should already consider not to build in the sky, but to build in the ground. Because then we will be cooled by the soil and by the ground, and we will save the electricity and so on and so on. So that's quite interesting, quite interesting.
I've heard, I don't know how true it is, or if it's just one of these internet stories, that there is a very large underground city inside the Grand Canyon in America. And it's been found, and now it's been hidden. But yeah, and again, it's this thing that maybe modern man, we overestimate ourselves and we underestimate everything else on this planet, including the animal kingdom. But I think we underestimate the people who came before us. I think that the Greeks had this saying, the ancient Greeks, that the first men were the greatest men, and with every generation, we become less clever, less strong, less able. So we don't increase our knowledge; we actually diminish over time, which means that the first were the best.
It's quite interesting, and coming back to the animals, I just imagine, it's hard to imagine, so that the first people who are living on the surface, and with the first rain, they saw that the animals hiding in a cave, so they start to use the cave. So they have been, of course, they have been much more closer to nature, because they did not try to be different. They tried to be part and understood. And of course, then came a fire, which helps, and so on, and many things. But you know, animals build nests as well, but they do not buy it in a retail chain store, the bricks, and then buy something and transport it all over the globe. They did it from the local resources all the time. And some of the structures are unbelievable how they are built, of course. We even cannot duplicate these. So quite interesting. Okay.
And, there's a, maybe, I don't know if it still exists now, but there's a restaurant in Berlin which serves old food from East Prussia. And what they do is they make it seasonally, like they did. So in Europe during the autumn, then you had to bury potatoes underground so frost didn't destroy them. You had to preserve fruit, you had to preserve meat and salt, and do all of these things to survive the winter, just like the animals did. And so, you know, the squirrels would hide their food away. So we had much more in common with the rest of the animals because we all had to survive the winter. We all had to make sure we had food enough for the winter. And, you know, now we can buy tomatoes all year round. We can do this, we can do that. And we don't have the skills anymore to be able to preserve food. So I wouldn't have a clue. I said, when my house, we had a big plum tree and we should just let the plums fall and rot in the garden. We had no idea that we could make things out of them. You know, why would we? We just go to the shop and buy it, and with no effort at all.
I think that becoming the animal-like, it's important. I shared with the audience in the noontime, we have only 2 minutes left. I share with the audience that I have a skill generally when I look at someone for a longer time, then I see animal in this person. And there are different types of animals. And I discovered that when I was 10 or so, so I didn't know about something. So, you know, in a communist time, it was not so easy to get boots of this type. But I said to me, okay, I will look at myself in a mirror. And it will work if you do not blink. So your vision is somehow melted and so on. And I thought something. And when I get back to this memory, I become really emotional because, you know, I saw human. In my face, I didn't saw an animal. And it was so, at that time, it was so strange because I saw in everyone an animal. And yeah. I get back to that and I recommend it to try everyone because I think it will work with everyone generally. I don't know how it works, but it works. And it's so interesting. And I think that we have animals inside.
What I think is really interesting is that the Chinese calendar, everyone is an animal. And if you're a tiger or a rat, it's the positives of each one. It's you know, a rat is highly skilled at a lot of different things. And that's what the Chinese have been able to appreciate.
So it was very interesting discussion once again. We have 1 minute left. So I hope that everybody enjoyed the conversation and will join us next week where we will be 3 again and talking about, I don't know what, but I'm sure it will be interesting. And I would like to wish everyone have a nice time, free of waste and wasting in all its forms. Stay safe, free, and be like animal. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
See you.